Mabuhay! Magandang tanghali! Ako si Pedro! Hello everyone. Yeah, well look, just for those that do not know Tagalog, or are probably like me, it means welcome. It is noon, it is lunchtime, tanghali, and my name is Peter. Okay, look, sorry not been on for a while, but things have been hectic since the end of quarantine. But I hope that you find that this next part of the update helpful. Basically, we're going to be looking at what happens when you get off the plane until you actually go through the full process of leaving the airport to go to your accommodation hotel. This particular part of the actual presentation really, I suppose, is for everybody. So it's for OFWs, returning Filipinos, and spouses of Filipinos, because really it's all the same process for everybody. So look, I'm sure many of you have had the experience of arriving in Manila Airport, so you'll be able to remember some of the locations that I'm going to talk to you about. So when you actually get off the plane, if you remember, there's that long corridor that leads you down to the arrival hall. And if you remember, on the left-hand side, there was always a thermal camera anyway. And on the right-hand side at the end of the corridor, there was that little duty-free shop. Well, the duty-free shop is now closed. However, where the thermal camera is, that is now the first checkpoint. Now, what you'll do as you approach, there are 3 or 4 lines. Now, that will depend on how many people are coming through the airport and also for air crews. So what tends to happen is the crews will tend to go on the right-hand side, and then everybody else will queue up. Now, you will be required to queue up at set distances, so please make sure that you stick to the markings on the floor. And it doesn't matter whether you're a OFW, returning Filipino, or a spouse. You can go in any of the lines, it really doesn't matter. Now, what will happen is then you'll be released through the first part of it to the next section. And at the next section, you need to have ready with you your health declaration card. Now, the health declaration card, what will happen is you will actually have this on with you prior, and you need to have filled it in before you arrive. Please do not leave it so that you've not filled it in, because you'll just get thrown to the side and then you'll have to fill it in and queue up again. What they'll do is they'll take it from you and they'll give you a letter to put on the actual form itself at the top right hand corner. And again, this will depend on your status. So what will then happen is you pass that form, they take that from you, you go through it. Now you're in the original arrivals hall. I'm sure we all remember what it was like when you get into the arrivals hall, ready to go through immigration. If you remember, the right-hand side was always for people like non-Filipinos, and then the left-hand side was all for the OFWs. And if you remember, I felt sorry for the OFWs. Your queue was so long, and everybody else's queue was long, but there was less people sorting them. So what has happened now is you've gone through the first point and you're into that location. Now, this is all set up for the COVID testing area. And what will happen is you'll get directed to the left as you come through. Now, this was the area where the OFWs used to go through passport control. Now, in this area, there's all seating and you'll get directed to specific areas. Now, it's split mainly into 3. So you have the OFWs, you have the returning Filipinos, and then you have the spouses. Now, it is at this point that it is important that you have your documentation that you should have completed before you arrived. So this is the ECIF, that's the electronic COVID information form, and also your payment receipt. Now, really, this is very, very important. Depending on how busy it is will depend on where you go, because the seating area goes a long way back and down corridors. But what will happen is you'll probably get put into these areas and then you'll get transferred to the next area, which is the area in front of where the OFWs used to go through passport control. Now, as you're going through to this area, what will happen is they'll give you another form. Now, if you've completed the ECIF, that's the electronic COVID information form, prior, you don't need this form, okay? You do not need to complete this form. This form is just to give permission in relations to the actual COVID test. Now, if you're an OFW and you filled the form in before, If you're a returning Filipino and you've filled the form in before and you've paid for your test, and also the spouses who have paid for their test, make sure that you inform the people that you are going to be seeing as you're going down. This is representatives from the security. They're actually called like the Border Force, the Coast Guard, and they will then redirect you into different areas. Now, OFWs, remember, you won't have paid for yours because your test will be free. So I'm afraid your queue will be quite long. Those that have filled in the forms, the spouses, and also the returning Filipinos, you will go over to the left. Okay, you'll go over to the left, and you'll then start to go through the next part of the process. By reaching this point, you've now got to the stage where you need to go through the rest of the registration for the COVID test. It's very similar for you, whether you're a returning Filipino, whether you're a spouse of a Filipino, or whether you are a OFW. So what you'll require at this stage is your ECIF document. Now remember, this is this document, and basically it has this, and you have your little number underneath, which will have been on the second page. So you will need this, and what you will also need is your receipt of payment. Now, if you are an OFW, you will go directly in front of you and you'll queue up and wait to be called to a number of desks. If you are a spouse, you go over to the left. What will then happen at this point is that if you have to pay, you pay. If you've already paid, that's fine. And if you're an OFW, again, you still go through the same process. Now, the spouse, you go to the left. You go through, you take your documentation. What will happen is the people that are there will want to see your passport, and what they'll do is they'll allocate you a very small barcode sticker. It's 2 barcode stickers actually, and you have to fill a form in there in front of them, which gives you that gives them your name, your contact number, etc., etc. From this point onwards, what they will then do is they give you the little 2 barcode stickers, and then they will direct you through to the COVID testing area. Now, this is done in separate booths, okay? So you have to go to the booth that you have been assigned. It's really, really important. You'll go through to that particular area. There's probably about 12 booths in all in a square. And what will happen is you'll show them the relevant documentation as you're walking through. They'll direct you to the booth. You sit down, you hand over your passport along with the 2 barcode stickers to the person that is going to be doing the test. Okay, now remember, this is very similar for both groups. Okay, so you'll all have to go through this process. Okay, what happens is you sit down and they are behind a screen. What they will then do is prepare to do the COVID test. Now, the COVID test in Manila is done in 2 stages. So the first stage is a throat swab. That's fine, that's easy, that's not a problem. But then you have the nose swab. Now, for those that have done it, you know it's not too nice. I've had it done 3 times now, and I don't think I've liked it on any occasion. But what they'll do is they'll do swabs for both, they'll keep it. They then place one of the barcode stickers on your sample file, and then the other one goes onto the back of your passport. Now, you need to keep this. Now, once you have done that, you more or less have completed the COVID testing procedure, and you'll leave the COVID testing area. But just as you leave that area, that is the place where you will then get stamped on your wrist. And what they do is they stamp a number on your wrist to say that you have been tested. At this point, what happens, you then go forward to the immigration, the passport control, and everybody goes through exactly the same area. Well, as I stated, the whole of this section actually is quite lengthy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it into 2 parts. We'll finish at this stage, part 1. So what we've done so far is I've gone through an outline. We've gone through the health test card that you present when you first arrive, and then waiting for the actual COVID test and then the COVID test itself. So please, if you've liked this, press the like button. Go on, do it now. And then why not subscribe, and then you can get the second part, which will follow very shortly. Okay, see you later. Bye for now.